board director and member of the Education Committee, and I'd like to take this opportunity to also welcome other board members as well as other members of the Education Committee, management, and our staff. As retirement reaches, we have to manage our resources, be it little, our best decisions we have to make for our family and our finances. There's one thing to plan for a retirement, but there's enormous change to navigate through the golden years. Ladies and gentlemen, it is from that perspective that we have to organize today's session. At this time, let me remind you of a few house rules. Please ensure that your mic is muted throughout the session. If any questions come to mind during the session, you can place it in the chat box and that we will respond during the questions and answer segments at the end. This webinar will last for 1 hour. It will be recorded and uploaded to the library section of SECU's website. Our presenter today is Keith Callender, a qualified and experienced financial services specialist for over 40 years. Keith is also a fellow of the Life Underwriters Training Council and a registered financial consultant with the International Association of Registered Financial Consultants. Keith began his career journey at the National Insurance Board, where he held various positions, and the last being the Human Resources Officer and the Secretary to the Human Resources Subcommittee of the board. Following this, Keith entered the insurance industry, where he has been serving for the past 30 years. He is also the founder and managing director of KC Investments and Financial Services Limited, which he provides sales management and personal financial planning services to individuals, small and micro enterprises. It also holds certification in personal financial planning at Reutech in collaboration with the Canadian Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors and Management Studies at our University of the West Indies. In addition, he is also a 28 years life member of the Million Dollar Roundtable, a global independent association of leading insurance and financial services professionals from more than 500 companies in 17 nations and territories. He is passionate about working with people to formulate a plan and realize their personal and financial goals. He believes that his purpose in life is to make a difference in the lives of other people. He is a founding member of Destiny Credit Union Cooperative Society Limited and is the outgoing president after serving 6 years. He's a devoted husband, proud father of 5 children and 2 grand, and an avid sports fan. Keith has a long, lovely presentation prepared for us, so let's listen attentively as Keith presents on how to navigate the golden years. Keith, take it over.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ennis. Are you all hearing me clearly?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Once again, I would like to take the opportunity to thank the management of Cannons Employees Credit Union and by extension, the Education Committee and the members present here this afternoon for giving me the opportunity to share a bit on retirement. As you all may see and observe, I'm probably also in that mode as well. So I will also bring not just theoretical information, but a wealth of practical information as well to bear on the conversation here this afternoon. So without further ado, let me just take the opportunity now to put my presentation up. Are you all seeing my screen at this time?
Yes, we are.
Right, so we're going to share from the beginning here. We're going to turn the curtains back and make a start on this evening's presentation. So what we're going to be covering this evening is scope of our presentation this evening. We're going to be taking some insights into the changing retirement landscape. We're going to be looking at some of the socioeconomic problems of aging. We're going to look at the impact of inflation on retirement assets. We're going to be covering some of the retirement risk factors, some of those fears that individuals may have. We will also be going to be looking at attempting to have you assess where you are in your own journey and look for ways to generate retirement income for those who may be needing it. So globally, the population is aging. For the first time in history, people aged 65 and over, us, are expected to outnumber the number of children under age 5 years of age. And if you can see on the graph, on the top graph, the green line from 1950 has been trending upwards steadily, and the blue line has been trending downward, representing children aged under age 65. So that we can see from the graph the representation of what I just indicated. In our second bar chart, persons 85 and over are now the fastest growing portions of many nations, and this is according to the US Department of Health and Community Services. And if we were to look at the bottom two bars, horizontal bars, you would have observed persons 85 plus and persons 100 plus, the percentage of the population relative to those under 64 years of age and those 65, under 65. So let's move on. Let's move from the wider world community now to the Latin America and the Caribbean. And if we were to look at the graph on the vertical line to the right, we would observe we are in 2023, sorry. And if we were to look at the second to last bar to the right, and that dotted line, this is just averaging just under 15%. Just under, this is the area I'm speaking about here, just under 15%. This is Latin America and the Caribbean. Let's bring it home to Trinidad and Tobago. And these are some media estimates coming out of the Central Statistical Office. In 1955, we had a population of 720,000, and persons over age 60 was 40,000, which represented 6% of the population. And by 2020, it was 1.2. Persons 60 and over, 126,000, representing 10%. And by 2021, 1.3. Persons 60 and over, 183,000, and representing 13%. So we can see that Trinidad and Tobago more or less mirrors Latin America and the Caribbean. That's the chart that we looked at previously. Right. Now, as the population ages, exists in Trinidad and Tobago. And if we were to look at these two charts, one above, it is said that it's expected by the year 2050, which is just what, we're in 2023 now, so we're talking about 27 years down the road. There can be as much as 254,000 persons, 65 years and over in Trinidad and Tobago. And more importantly, especially for this group here, the age dependency ratio shows the number of persons 65 years and over for every 100 persons 15 to 64 years of age. And if we were to look again, go back to 1950, we had 7 persons over the age of 65 for every 100 persons between the age of 15 to 60. By 2000, that grew to 10. By 2025, it is expected to be around 21, and by 2050, to be 44. So we definitely see aging taking place in Trinidad and Tobago. And if we were to, highlight it even further by looking at what we refer to as an age pyramid, if you look at the pyramid to the left of the screen, which was done in 1980, you would observe the top part of this pyramid from age 60, how it is small. But notice now when we look at it compared by 2011, how it has changed significantly at the top. Notice how it has gotten fatter, which indicates growth in persons over 60 years of age. So what are some of the socioeconomic problems associated with aging? Let's talk about the individual. Longevity. People are living longer. We are expected to live long, healthy lives, conditioned upon the extent to which we take care of our bodies, eat well, exercise, have regular medical checkups, just to make sure that this body that that the good Lord has given us, that we take good care of it. Then we will have about maintaining our standard of living after retirement. And that for some individuals tend to be a challenge. And we will get to some of, as I go along in the presentation later on, we will see why for some individuals that may be a challenge. But nevertheless, even though you are presenting and find yourself challenged some way or the other, there is hope, because towards the ending of the presentation, I'm going to be sharing some ways and means in which we can seek to increase our retirement income. So the other challenge that faces the individual is limited employment opportunity. And only today I was having a conversation with someone who was saying to me, they had a friend that visited them from abroad. He's age 70 years of age. He said it's only when he came to Trinidad, he realized that he is old, because people where he has come from, people work at all ages. You can get employment at all ages. But in Trinidad and Tobago, from the time you reach 60, they tend to figure, okay, because that is our chosen retirement age at this time, in most places of employment, you have to leave. So a lot of institutional capital is exiting the workforce and going home and sitting down and doing nothing. Post-inflation impact on individual savings, and we're going to touch on more on that in a while, because for most individuals, especially persons on fixed incomes, inflation is our greatest enemy. It's ravages and makes you poorer and poorer year after year if you don't apply particular strategies to mitigate against it. And then for female folks, women tend to be at greater risk of poverty in old age because of the way how our pension systems are adapted. And generally, it has to be changed along the way if it is to meet their standards. Statistically speaking, it is said that women tend to outlive men. And as a result of that, if there were two incomes that the female was dependent upon for maintaining the standard of living in the retirement, if the spouse departs, the husband departs and leave the female around, then sometimes there tend to be a challenge, because against how some pension plans may be structured, the widow may not get the full amount of income that the deceased spouse was enjoying previously. From a societal point of view, the ratio of workers to pensioners is projected to decrease, because if the number of aged persons are increasing, the converse of that is also true, in that the number of persons 15 to 64, is also decreasing. So the number of persons who will be around and paying taxes to provide the government with revenue, to provide benefits for senior citizens, that the workforce is decreasing. Along with that, we have an escalating cost to fund old age programs, and I will also share some information on that as we go along. And the demand for retirement housing, convalescent homes, medical system, and an increase in healthcare costs as the population ages. 20 to 25 years ago, there were probably few homes for retirement. One of the issues, especially with this cohort of baby boomers, they changed the landscape throughout. From when they were born, they had to have more childcare homes. They move from childcare homes, they need more primary schools, then more secondary schools, then more tertiary education, then more jobs. Now the boomers are retiring, a need for retirement housing and convalescent homes, increased medical care. So all around, the boomers tend to have impacted generations throughout. The potential for the rise in the age of retirement. Well, this is the current conversation now that has restarted. The Minister of Finance spoke about it. Unions have their position on it. I have been speaking over the last 15 to 18 years and talking about the need for retirement age to increase in Trinidad. We in Trinidad lagging the rest of the Caribbean. Barbados right now is thinking about moving from 67 to 68. We saw last year or early this year in France, when President Macron decided to increase it by 2 years, there was mass rioting. The reality is retirement age has to increase because people are living longer. And as people live longer, it is more strain on systems to provide income for them in retirement. So the prospect of increased taxation, whether direct or indirect. Again, the Minister of Finance already talking in his budget speech of the need to bring back property taxes as a medium to raise revenue to offset government expenditures. And of course, the challenge to the NIS system. And I will want to share some information with you all that I extracted out of the National Insurance, that is their 2022 annual report. And take a look at this. This is showing, this is directly out of NIS report. Retirement pension, number of beneficiaries, according to their report, is 130,000. The benefit expenditures paid was $4.7 billion. And payment for retirement pensions as a percentage of total long-term expenditures amounted to 86.92%. Now, pay attention to this figure here. 4.7 billion in benefits paid in pensions. Let's look at this other chart. 2012, 2022, what the NIB collected in revenue by way of not revenue, but contribution income was $4.5 billion. How much they paid in pension alone? $4.7 billion. So the payout to retire to pensioners alone amounted to more than the contributions they receive from the entire workforce in terms of contributors. But notice the growing trend in the shortfall. The gray line represents contribution income, and the mustard line represents benefit payments. Notice the difference here at this bottom line, and notice the increasing trend, the increasing disparity between contribution income and benefit payment. So basically, what it means is that the NIS is now being supported from investment returns. They have to be digging into their savings to be able to be paying benefits. And this is the reality right now. So let's examine the impact of inflation on retirement assets. The Trinidad and Tobago retail prices has almost tripled from 2003 to 2022. Average inflation rate over that period was 5.3%. Inflation rate was as low as 0.6%. That was in 2020, the height of COVID. Everything more or less shut down, to a high as 12%. That was in 2008. We would recall 2008 represent the financial meltdown around the world that caused a huge collapse of the financial systems around the world. So those were the two outliers. But when we take about a 20-year period and to have an average inflation rate of 5.3, let's further examine how that inflation impacts us. Let's look now at the impact of 5% inflation on $100. Now, CSO revised their index in 2015. So I was using 2015 as what they refer to as a base year, and we have $100. By 2020, at a rate of inflation of 5%, that $100 would have only been able to purchase $78.40 in goods and services. By 2025, it will further reduce to $61.40 in purchasing power. By 2030, $48.10, and by 2035, next 12 years, $37.70. Let's take it from another perspective. Now, let us assume an individual in 2015, that individual could have lived comfortable in their retirement on $5,000. By 20, because of an inflation rate of 5%, remember the average over the last 20 years was 5.3%. So 5% is not too far off here. So if that individual is living comfortable on $5,000 in 2015, by 2020, to be able to buy the same goods and services that they could have purchased and they live the same quality of life that they lived in 2015, by 2020, that individual needed $6,381, which was $1,381 more to be able to enjoy the same quality of lifestyle. By 2025, we are in 2023 now, that person will need $8,140, which is $3,000 more. By 2030, $10,000, excuse me, which is $5,000 more. Practically double what they needed in 2015. And by 2035, $13,000. So clearly, if this particular individual was living on a fixed income, surely, as we can see from the table, in the years ahead, this individual will be experiencing financial challenges, save and except if they have other means to be able to augment their income over time. So what are some of the techniques that you can employ for dealing with inflation? One, you need to be saving consistently. So yes, I may have retired. I have extra income. I do my income, my expenses. I realize I have residual income. I need to be saving. One of the things I always say to individuals is that we should always be paying ourselves first. So that whatever money you get from your different sources of income, put something aside for yourself. Pay yourself after, for those who are spiritually minded and have to pay their tithes, pay your tithes first, and pay yourself after, and then deal with your expenses. Use interest-bearing accounts. And I know the credit union at the very last session that I had with them, Mr. Inez shared with me that some of the accounts that Cannons Credit Union has, one particular, I believe it's a money market account, paying as much as 2%. And 2% is a much better rate than having your money sitting down in a bank account earning 0.01%. So you would be well advised to take a relook at how your portfolio is structured at the minute, at this time, and see what changes you could probably make to be able to make sure your assets are working sufficiently hard for you, because at the end of the day, you work very hard over the last 30, 40 years to be where you are now. It may also require some repositioning of your assets. So what do I mean by that? The example that I just gave for individuals because some people grew up with the mindset that, the way to save my money is to have it saved in the bank. Or save it in a low yielding accounts. Inflation is going to erode it and pauperize you over time. So you need to reposition your assets, move things around, and give your assets the ability to grow, to be able to appreciate and value. Yes, it may require stepping out somewhat and taking some measure of risk, because if you want to get a greater return, you have to take a greater risk. But there are also strategies for managing risk. One such example is as old as the times memorial. What old people say? Don't put all your eggs in one basket. So the extent to which you do diversification in the repositioning process will help you along the way. Minimize bank charges. Sometimes I talk to individuals, and when we go through, they have excess bank charges. And when I ask them, why are you allowing the bank to be charging you? Some individuals, banks, some accounts now, if you go into the account more than 3 times in the month, the bank will charge you on that 4th occasion that you go in. So the extent to which you use things like online banking so that you go into your account, move money around as you want without having to incur charges. Stay away from get-rich-quick schemes. All right, and some of us would have heard of the drug Susu of about 2 years ago, and how so many people lost their money. If it sounds too good, run. Use credit wisely. And I know the credit union, I'm certain that they have individuals in their credit department who will give you wise counseling on how to use your credit. Because if you don't use credit wisely, you can find yourself paying excess interest payments, and all that will do is erode the value of your portfolio. Take advantage of income building opportunities that may present itself from time to time. And we're going to talk about some of that in a while. And manage investment prudently. And again, there are also strategies. This is not an investment topic, so I wouldn't go too much into that. But whatever investments that you would have made, particularly those who might be a little more adventurous and have a stock portfolio or equity portfolio, look at it, take from time to time, look at your portfolio, know when is your best time, talk to your investment advisor, look for when is the best time for you to buy, when is the best time for you to sell. Generally, you just said that we buy low, we sell high, have your stop loss to know when you should come out or when you should go back in. And what strategies they can use. Dollar cost averaging is always a good strategy for investments. So now, again, as retirees, we tend to make trips abroad, and in traveling abroad now, cash is no longer used. Everything is credit cards, and we go outside and we burn up our credit card, and we come back with huge debts on our credit card that we tend to drag along from time to time. So one of the things that we need to do in terms of our credit card is know your cycle. Whether you have a 30-day cycle, a 35-day cycle, a 40-day cycle, pay off your balances in full at the payment due date. Don't fall for the trap of paying the minimum. For as long as you do that, you will always remain indebted to the bank. As a matter of fact, bear in mind, most credit cards in Trinidad and Tobago, the interest is 2.something%, 2.1, 2% on a reducing balance, which is annualized is over 25%. All right, so that even if you go on your vacation, you had a good time, you come back, you have a 50,000 and you don't have all the money to pay, go to the credit union, have a conversation with the people in the credit committee who will be willing to have a conversation with you, to work with you to see, because if you go and you borrow from the credit union and you're probably paying 1% on a reducing balance, you're coming out much less than paying 2% on a reducing balance. Don't make minimum payments alone only, and avoid late penalty charges. Get into the habit of using your credit card for budgeted purchases only. So you can use your credit card Once you're using it for budgeted purchases, you're getting your miles or you're getting your points back, as the case may be. And when you get your income, you pay off the credit card in full. If you're having difficulty managing your credit card, I tell people get rid of it. So what are some of your retirement risk factors? We talk about longevity, the fact that we are aging, we are living longer. And during that time, it's possible that sometimes illness comes along that requires some measure of long-term care. Some people have to find themselves in convalescence home for 2 years, 3 years, as much as 5 years. Some people end up in convalescence home and never come out. But if you have to go in these homes, it costs money. We have already talked about inflation and how that impacts on our income. We talk about liquidity. How liquid are you? Because one of the other slides we'll come to in a while is that we will always have a cash need. And my assets in such a manner that I can, if I have a need unexpectedly for a cash lump sum, could I readily access cash and to be able to address that need? Because you can have assets, but if your assets are illiquid, it can provide a financial difficulty for you. For instance, you might have, let's say you have 2 million or 3 million in land. Land is not something that's easily sold. If you have a need now that you need an operation and the operation is costing 300,000, though you have 2 point something or 3 million in a piece of land, you really have a challenge if you don't have cash to be able to deal with that. And again, the credit union is always around to be able to assist you in seeking to see how best they can assist you. Interest rates. What is happening with interest rates? Are interest rates going up? Are interest rates going down? Some of you all on this platform may remember the days when you could have gotten 10% in unit trust. Now, interest rates in Trinidad, the environment, particularly since 2008, has taken a nosedive and has been relatively flat over an extended period of time. Business, to what extent the business environments for those persons who may be in business, how is my business environment changing? Is it changing for a betterment for me, or is it changing in such a way that what I am doing is becoming obsolete? How are some of the new technologies and then technological advances, how is it changing my business model? Do I now have to change my business model to make it to be more competitive or to remain in the business market, business environment? What about markets? What is happening with markets? Are markets going up? Are markets going down? This is one of the greatest fear of persons in their reclining years, particularly people who have large portfolios, because as we grow older, our ability to deal with stress, our ability to tolerate high levels of volatility in the market, it gets tough, so that we tend to be less tolerant to a lot of volatility. We tend to want more, if there have to be any movement in the market, we could handle small shifts, but not large volatile shifts that you wake up one morning and you see 2% of your portfolio gone from the previous day business. And the markets right now have been fairly volatile, and if you look at our local market, for those who might be in the equity market portfolio, would have experienced in 2022, the market declined by as much as 13%. And thus far, we are at the end of 2010, we are at the end of October, and the market is already down 10% for 2023. So that gives you an idea of what is happening with market. How could public policy impact upon my retirement years? So what's an example of how public policy? up to a couple of years ago, you could have, as a retiree, go on the ferry up to Tobago free. Now I believe you have to pay a small portion to travel. It's no longer free. You have to pay a small portion. I think it's 25% of the cost. Is that going to change further? Is some retirees or we travel free on the bus? Is that going to change? Because the government can change policy, and change in public policies can affect us. Health expenses, to what extent? And we all know if we don't have healthy bodies, and some of us spend our life going after wealth at the expense of our health. And now that we have health challenges, we're taking the same wealth to try to address the health. But the thing about it, once your health starts to fail, you tend to have a challenge. So I encourage people to try to take, good care of your health, have regular exercises, eat well, and have regular checkups at your doctor. Family relations, the death of a spouse or major illness of a spouse, the divorce can also affect bad financial dealings of your spouse or unforeseen needs of a family member. These things can affect us as we go along and at times could present a risk. Or, we are all in retirement, or some of us so maybe still close retirement, but some people might be forced out. If you are in your pre-retirement years and you're on this seminar and there's a disability or a sickness, you can't be forced out of your employment. So let's take the opportunity for a while to assess where we are. So we're putting everything on the table. Have your computer, have all your papers, and let's take a look. So one of the things that I advise you to do is take the time to develop your own personal financial statement, right? Simply meaning you're looking at everything that you own, what your cash you have in the bank, what your money you have in mutual funds, savings, whatever cash value you have on an insurance, your stocks and shares, your real estate, your home market value, your vehicles, any other asset that you have, everything that you own, quantify it and put it down on paper. Or you could develop your spreadsheet of your own if you wish, if you haven't already done something like that. And then what you owe, if by chance you still have a mortgage loan balance, what that mortgage loan balance will look like. I would imagine for most people on this platform, that may not be the case. If you still have a motor vehicle loan, what's the balance on it? If you have a credit card, what's the balance in it? If you have a higher purchase, what's the balance? If you have any other loan. And then what we want to get to is your net worth. And this is what we should all be striving to maintain or increase, what our net worth is, because it is the true value of what an individual is worth. I say to an individual who owns $1 million and he has 1 million in debt, and another individual who owns 100,000 and has 100,000 in debt. There isn't any really difference between either of the two, because both of them have a net worth at zero. So let's again look at this little chart or image that I have on the screen. We'll be looking at sources of retirement income. And I would like you to figure out, as you look at it and ponder, each leg of this stool represents a source of income. And if we have one leg, obviously we can't sit in it, and I would imagine most of us not in a situation of one leg. Hopefully, we have no fewer than three, possibly income from NIS. Some of us may have a company pension plan, and some of us may have a annuity, or some of us may have rental income, right? Because ideally, what is needed for us to live a comfortable life in our retirement years that we're going along now is to have at least a stool that has three legs. Each leg represented a source of income. And the extent at which that source of income is a guaranteed income, it puts us in a better place and a better frame of mind because we know jump high, jump low. We sure every month the money hitting the account. For instance, NIB, every 15th of every month, you're sure your money hitting your account. See, when except if something glitch occurs in the system, some months it might show up on the 14th and all. So ideally, we want to have as many sources as possible. So if you are in a situation now for individuals who have all, I have 7 different sources there. If you have 7, that's wonderful because it means you are living a comfortable life in your retirement. If you are not so fortunate, then we will have a conversation at the end as to what are some of the things that we can do to try to put some more legs on your retirement stool. Because basically, what we will have in terms of financing need and requirement is just 2 needs we will have: a need for cash and a need for income. Cash to handle any unforeseen matter that pop up, sometimes having to repair a roof, repair a door, repair a window, fix a car tires gone, you had to get tire, the engine gone, you had to buy engine, as the case may be, or income needs. Because as I showed earlier, with inflation on that $5,000, that person who was earning $5,000 as inflation eroded the value of the purchasing power, and that person needed more and more income every month to be able to survive. That income need can also arise if there's a illness, either by yourself, through yourself or a family member, for whom you are responsible to assist. And as a result of that, because you now have new medical bills to be seen about every month, it means if your household income was 10,000 and because of the illness, it has now increased by a further 1,000. It means every month you have to have $11,000 to service your household commitments. So what are some of the factors affecting a person's need for retirement funding? Your living needs and your retirement, your lifestyle expenditure. I didn't develop a budget here, but one of the tools that we ought to do, apart from identifying our assets, also do your budget. What are the expenses that I have on an ongoing basis? Starting first with my committed expenses. What are the expenses that I'm committed to? My light bill, my phone bill, food, all those expenses that are necessary for sustenance and existence. Other expenses that might be discretionary, things that could do without, the eating out, the entertainment, the level of entertainment expense, gifts to friends and family. Those things are more or less discretionary expenses. So you need to also look at the current value of your retirement assets and other investment assets that could be used to provide retirement income. What do I have that I can now turn and start to provide an income? So for instance, I know of someone who was retired, but this person was a plant lover. And around her house was filled with a set of plants. And one day, a good friend of hers came and said, I have a family commitment and we're looking for some plants to rent. I better start to rent some from you. And the rest is history. She actually started renting out plants that she had from around her home. So the life expectancy of the individual and his or her spouse, as the case may be, depending upon what might be. You might come from an environment, a family line of long livers. Your spouse likewise. So statistically speaking, it will be expected that both of you all will be living way beyond your retirement years. And as I touched earlier, when we saw that the average 65-year-old is expected to live for at least the next 19 years. So we're talking about going, if you retire at 65 and having to live at least the next 19 years, going to age 84. Do I have income to maintain me for that extended period of time? Particularly if I'm living in retirement in an environment where post-retirement inflation rates are high. Because the higher the inflation rates is the worse I will be and the more impact it will have on my income, particularly if my income is not indexed for inflation, which simply means I'm existing on a flat pension. Or do I have new expenses coming by way of medical or by travel or by household maintenance costs? So I am living in a home, my home that I live in, I am living here in my home about 39 years now. Every now and again, something popping up in the house that needs repairs, need fixing. You will have to be having money to be able to fund the expenses that goes along with that. So let me just come back to this table again. And as I want you to reflect, if you are a person who right now, you don't have 3 or maybe 4, and you want to think of what else can I do to be able to get another source of income, let's look at some ways to generate income. Reconstructing your home for rental. Could I approach a credit union, file 100,000, 150, 200,000, borrow, put up a part at the back of my home. I could get a 4 or 5, depending upon where I live, or 4,000. And maybe if I borrow that money for 7 years, and if the installment is $3,000, but I get in 3,500 or 4,000, I'm getting enough rental income to pay my installment, and I still have something saved in reserve. Or repositioning of your assets. And I talk about that again before, taking some of your assets that you have in low income bearing accounts and position them in accounts to give you higher interest rates, to give you a better income in your overall portfolio. Or you may be in a position where you have to seek a viable business venture. For instance, you are retired, but you know someone who may be into farming. You know this person doing well. But one of their problems in farming is that their ability to raise capital over time sometimes present a challenge. And you want to partner with them, then give them an injection, have an arrangement that you put in place so that you now become a business partner with this individual who you trust, who you have had a relationship with and know how this person does business properly. Or you learn new skills to generate revenue. Or you're using your life learned skills so that you might be been an accountant for years, I'm using that as an example, and you're no longer working in an account, but you have friends who have small businesses who want an account, somebody to do the books for them. You could avail yourself to using your years of skills to be able to assess individuals, or you may want to go in consultancy, depending upon your skill set and the kind of business environment that you have come from. Or you turn in hobbies into a business venture. And I've shared the issue with the lady client of mine who had having plants around her home was a hobby. And she saw the opportunity to turn her hobby into a business venture. I also remember a former manager of mine many years ago. She decided when she retired, she went into the horticultural business and still is today. I know I have 2 guys as well, 2 friends, both clients of mine. One was working with a large financial institution, a billion-dollar financial institution, master's degree. The other one, ex-fireman, master's degree, running fire services, IT department. They both decided to team up with each other and they turned in mortar and they're running a successful construction business. Again, they love that and they took the skills to get into a business venture or downsizing your current living arrangement to be able to, you're living in a 4-bedroom house, if you alone, all the children, you know, emptiness. And I actually had a situation like that with a client. He said, well, no, Keith, imagine I living in this house here, $3.5 million. I have only $100,000, just over $100,000. And I asked him, okay, so why are you remaining house rich but cash poor? What do you think are your options? He said, well, you know, it's only I alone here now, and the children are coming back now. So he decided to sell his house, buy some things. I think it was 2.3 or 2.4 million he paid for it. So he was able now to get additional cash to be able to live and enjoy his lifestyle. So with that, I bring this presentation to an end. I know I had 45 minutes, I took 48. So we open for questions. Francis, I turn it over to you.
Thank you for that feedback, Keith. It was really informative. I know there are a lot of eager questions that will be coming up because I, for one, have some, concerns about the inflation because we're talking about the increases in electricity and basically everything has increased. So my question to you was, well, what else you can do? Because you're saying save consistently. How can I save in an environment such as this?
Okay. All right. What are the TNTech say that, and I say that in my home all the time. Electricity that cost that we could control. Take off the lights in the house. You're in one bed. No, serious. You're in one bedroom, but your house light up like a Christmas tree.
Right.
And everybody's sitting down in the living room watching television.
Right.
And every room, the light on. So there are little things, and I tell my house, if electricity costs going up, we have to find a way to carry electricity costs back down. All right? Because there are some costs over which we have no control, but those things that we have a control over, let's try to control it.
Right. Well, it makes sense. That is very it makes sense. A simple fix the big solution. You also have understanding a lot of your language and a lot of your things that you're talking about means that there's certain financial awareness that we should adopt, especially in our twilight years. What do you recommend that we start using as a tool to start learning more about these things? Because you talk about a lot of indices, spoke about a lot of changes in the socioeconomical factors. But what do you recommend to help us educate ourselves?
Okay, a good question. Make yourself more aware, make yourself more financially literate. There are a lot of seminars around, people put on seminars from time to time. There are uh, information in the news media. There are also people go on YouTube now. There are a lot of um, blogs that you could go on YouTube, but type in something on money management, and a whole range of information will come. And click on them, and you will get, and it's free. So
Right.
the extent to which you make yourself literate, it will help you to be able better manage your finances. You will get ideas that you didn't think about to be able to help you manage your finances.
Makes sense. Yeah, thanks for that. I have a question from one of the public here, one of our members. I saw a social media post reporting that there may be a reduction in NIS percentage benefit penalty if one retires before the age of 65. Is that true? The post indicated you would only get your 100% NIS if you retire at age 65. You have any feedback such as that?
All right. I'm always careful about social media posts, right? But what I do know, as a former employee, I don't know how things have changed. The way how the system is structured now, that you can retire at age 60. The maximum age that you can work for is age 65. If you retire now at age 60, you will be paid now on the basis of the contributions that you have made since you entered the national insurance system to now. The 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 minimum payment to qualify for retirement pension is 750 contributions. Once you have made more than your 750 contributions, you are entitled to receive a retirement pension. Now, for some people, if you decide, I'm not going to retire at 60, I'm going to continue working, what it will mean is that you will be building up more contribution years in terms of having to contribute to the system. So by the time you retire at 65, your pension will be larger than if you had choose to retire at 60. You follow that? Because
Yes,
you would have
that's
contributed
good.
more over a period of time. All right. So
Yeah,
it is so that explains the difference. But again, what has become a common practice in Trinidad is people go to the employer, but in some institutions, retirement age is at 60. So you have no choice, especially in the public service, you got to leave. In private sector, some private sector institutions, where their retirement age is 65, some don't even have an established retirement age. The employee, from the time they reach 60, they talk to the employer, I want my NIS. I hear NIS going on bus. I want to get my money before it busts. So I am going to retire now. They submit the claim, they start to get the pension, and then they start back working by the employer on contract, paying at in what is referred to as Z class, where the only benefit that you will be entitled to is employment benefit, injury benefit if you are injured on your job. None of the other benefits you will be entitled. So I hope I answered that caller question.
yes. I hope that should fit the team because I understand what you mean by the greater the contributions, the better it should be for you, the person
Yeah.
who's paying those contributions. And as the more you contribute, well, and I know a lot of companies now, actually, some of them already retire at 65. So I could imagine the benefit it will be to them. But what other sources of income that you recommend that we try to provide towards after those 65 as well?
After sources of income after 65,
Yeah.
right? So one of the sources of income I spoke about is the annuity, right? With an annuity, a person can start under the existing tax laws if it is a registered pension plan, and I'm speaking here solely to a registered pension plan. You can choose to receive your pension at any age between 50 and 70. One of the things I always say to individuals in terms of planning your retirement is plan your retirement in such a way that you have what I call staggered retirement income. So if you know you want to take a NIS at age 60 and let's say your employer situation is at age 60, you have at least two sources of income there. At least you can have, and there is no limit to the amount of an annuity you could have had. So if you have another one, you could have one that you cash in, one that you take at 65, or one that you leave it and take it at 70, because as long as we are alive, we will have income needs. And
Right.
our needs, as I showed you, keeps increasing. That dollar value, one of the biggest threats to retirees, one of the biggest fears the retirees have is the fear that they will run out of income, run out of money in their retirement.
Right.
Apart from all that, I will get sick and I can't take care of myself.
Okay. I can imagine how much of a fear that is. And
Yeah.
I know some of us have future cash.
Uh-huh.
And, future cash is something that we invest in. How
hmm
that is that program after you retire?
Okay. Future cash, as I know it to be, it's based upon the contribution that you are making. And I know in where it is supported by the company, the employee pays a portion and the company pays a portion. That works on the basis of what we refer to as a defined contribution plan, sort of a hybrid of it. Once during the years where the person was paying their pension, they were paying money. That's what we refer to as the accumulation phase. You are paying money towards your retirement. You are accumulating funds towards your retirement. Once you get into the stage of your retirement, this is now you have now entered what is referred to as the distribution phase, where money is now being paid to you. So with the future cash, as I understand it to be, you would get a certain percentage of whatever you have accumulated, and that is based, and your accumulation is ideally based not only on your contribution, but also on market performance. If you are retiring at a time when the market is low, where the value of your asset has fallen, then you will have a problem.
Right.
As tend to happen with. So right now, as I enunciated earlier, in 2022, the market fell by 13%. Thus, this year so far is down 10%.
Right.
So an individual who might have seen what the cash value were like at the ending of 2021, when that individual look now, they may be seeing a lesser value. If
Right.
that individual time has now reached to retire, that individual could possibly be retiring with a lesser income that they probably would have gotten if they had retired and they were due for retirement in 2021. Right?
Wow.
Because when you get a percentage of the amount with the future cash, the you now have to go to an insurance company to be able to purchase an immediate annuity. And that immediate annuity is a fixed amount that they will be paying you for the rest of your life.
Thank you for that, man, Keith. Really some good stuff. A lot of good takeaways. I really like the self-assessment plan and the impact to you, the individual, and preparing for your retirement and being during your retirement years, because it's important to keep that self-assessment going. I really like that appreciation of that information as a ways to generate income as well. I know there's some great takeaways we could take away from this whole webinar that we have here. So if there are no more questions, we'll close off for today. So Keith, I'd like to thank you for your time and your knowledge and sharing some of your tips that you can implement to ensure that financial independence, especially in the retirement years. For those who wish to listen again to today's sessions, the recording will be uploaded in the library section of SECU website, so you can access it at any time. This is the last of our series of webinars for the Credit Union Month. On behalf of the board and the Education Committee of Cannons Credit Union, we'd like to thank you for your participating with us for that month, and hope that the information was informative and that it will assist you in making the best decisions on your financial future. And remember to make Cannons Credit Union your fullest destination for your financial needs and give us a lion's share of your business. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our evening's webinar, and thank you for your time and joining us. Do have a good evening and a good dinner and restful evening. Have a good day. Thanks, Keith.
You're welcome, Francis. And once again, thanks to the Cannons Credit Union, management, and staff and all the members present for the opportunity to be of service to them this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you.